Hi and welcome to the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast for athletes, coaches and professionals who want to achieve their goals faster. I'm David Charlton and I'll be sharing proven methods from leading athletes, coaches and experts that will help you get the most from your talent. Today's show is sponsored by Functional Intelligent Training, who are a sports injury clinic located in Gosford near Newcastle upon Tyne and specialise in athlete development, nurturing future champions, strength and conditioning support and excellent rehabilitation services. Today I have a fun and interesting conversation with former professional rugby player Lome Fa'atau. Lome has transitioned into strength and athletic development since he's retired from professional rugby. He works and supports a range of athletes from different sporting backgrounds. And in this episode, we talk about different challenges that he had in his career as a player and that he sees in other athletes. I'm sure you'll enjoy some of his insights. Let's get on with the show. Hi, Lome. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, Dave. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad. It's a while since we're caught up.
It's been a few months, since we've had a chat down at the Storm Fitness gym. So it's nice to catch up again.
Yeah, most definitely. Life's a little bit different now to what it was when we did catch up.
Well, yeah, I mean, with this time we're catching up using technology and on the Zoom call instead of actually being in the office this time, and being face-to-face. This time it's slightly different. It's been an interesting 2020, to say the least.
Yeah, you could say that, yeah. So for the listeners who don't know you, could you just give them a little bit of background around your rugby career and then what it is that you're doing now?
Yeah, sure. So I'm New Zealand-born Samoan. My parents are from a very small island in the South Pacific, Samoa. Who decided to move along to New Zealand for a better life for myself and my brothers and sisters. Fast forward, I played a fair bit of basketball before getting into rugby, following along with my friends and families and that who were also playing rugby. Turned professional over there in the early to mid 2000, and then came across to the UK, Europe, and played a few seasons over this way. And then from then on, just now have transitioned into a personal trainer at Storm Fitness here in Newcastle.
And you also do some rugby coaching as well now, is that right?
I've done a fair bit of rugby coaching. It's something that's kind of that I hold dear to me in terms of passion for the sport and love for it, that I wanted to show my own appreciation for by giving back. So I managed to find a lot of not just clubs but schools and a lot of young athletes. A lot of them are rugby based, and I'm working alongside with those guys.
Excellent. So yeah, making a positive difference with those guys has got to be the key.
Well, I try to. Yeah. It's really important that I want to be sharing my own experience and helping where I can in the local community. But also, rugby is a big part of my life, and that's something where I find that I have a lot of strengths and experience, and so I want to be able to help people. Young athletes, boys and girls, who are in that area and want to improve in their own game.
Brilliant. So in terms of rugby, how do you see the words mental toughness and how that actually applies in a rugby setting?
It's an interesting question. I think, firstly, I'm certainly not one who's a professional in that kind of arena, but I guess from my own experience and how I've kind of dealt with in my own ways in terms of focusing on the game itself and how I've prepared myself. This I'm talking from a professional experience. I've learnt a lot around players that I've been playing with, some very well-known rugby players, and I've been able to take from them what they've kind of experienced themselves and worked off them. There's a lot of areas in my game that I know that I've had weaknesses in, and it's somewhere where I've certainly I don't know whether you say unfortunate or not. The media have certainly jumped on there and certainly given their 2 cents worth about letting you know how bad you've played. So there are certain areas in my game that I knew that I've had to work hard on, and I think I've used that as fuel. So in terms of mental toughness, I've just taken that on board, really bottled it up and use it as fuel to really try and get better in those certain areas and that. But at the same time, I know areas where I'm really strong at that I've certainly used as well to try and be better than other oppositions when we've come up against them.
So in some ways, like when you're talking about like knowing your strengths, there, self-awareness has got to be quite a key attribute there. Yeah,
most definitely. I think every athlete has one or two things that are probably their weakness or an area that they know that they've probably got to work on and that. But to understand and be aware of your biggest strengths is somewhere where you can certainly tap into and understand that you're going to have an advantage against any opposition that you do come up against. And that's something that's sort of worked well for myself in terms of if I'm going to point an area that I've found that I've had great strengths in, speed is certainly an area where I've certainly maximized and during my own game and that. And so just being able to really zone in on that area when I am training and leading up to matches, that's something where I've certainly worked on to try and continue to get better at. But at the same time, like I just said before, there are certain areas of my game that I've really worked hard on, especially to try and bring up as well and be better at.
You've just pinched one of my questions there, which was, were you someone who actively really tried to work on your strengths and improve them, which you've obviously mentioned. Do you find, like, when you look back at some players and players that you coach, that they can maybe be a little bit complacent in the areas that they're good at?
Yeah. I guess when I was doing a fair bit of rugby coaching, there was obviously being a backs player. There are areas where I found that I had a lot more experience in playing as a winger in the back three. I was able to help a few guys in terms of working on their positioning and in terms of one-on-one situations about how to beat the opposition player, and also looking at depending on certain situations that they've found themselves at, that they felt it's an area that they wanted to work more on, and being able to help them along with my own experience, it's certainly given me that little bit more. I found a lot of joy and pride in being able to share that with them. Obviously, a lot of these young players that I've worked with are certainly not in a professional level, but just being able to pass on a small piece of my own experiences has certainly helped them in certain ways. And that.
Did you find that under like different coaches and different cultures in clubs that there might be like more of an emphasis on working on strengths in some cases? And did you find coaches that might be just really on you quite a lot about your weaknesses?
Yeah, I think there was for honestly, there was probably one season where I found that there was a coach where we kind of didn't really see eye to eye. So the following season, I was drafted to another club, which in terms of mental toughness that we're talking about here has certainly really. I found myself going through a stage or a period of I wouldn't call it depression or at that kind of level, but a period where I went through. I was just feeling down and probably not as confident as I thought I would be in most ways. But what I would say is that I was very fortunate to have some good, strong people, family and friends around me who really kind of supported me and made me see through those tough times to actually look at this new opportunity about being able to use it as fuel again, to prove myself against when we do come up against that team, but also just to show people my own strengths, what I'm good at, and that to kind of like, I guess, in my way to show them what they're missing when we did come up against them. So there was a situation where there was no malice or anything or any bad relationships between us. It was just I knew myself that I wasn't wanted there by this coach. So for me, I looked at it as a new opportunity, a new chapter, and a chance for me to really push my own claim to prove to them that you've made the wrong choice.
Yeah, that must be difficult being in a team sport where obviously the coach picks the team and for whatever reason they just decide actually you're not part of their plans. It must be very really tough, like you say, on your mental health and just on your motivation, your focus on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, we all wish on that we could have a crystal ball and or have hindsight about certain things, because I was very fortunate when I guess I changed my mindset in this and took this opportunity as a new start, a new environment, a whole fresh beginning for myself. And we were very fortunate that the team that I had been dropped from was our first team that we played against. And so just to come up against them and being fresh at that time while everything was still fresh in my mind was a blessing, because I was ready for that game. And it was probably one of the best games that I played, especially that season. And it was nice to come away with the win, and then also just give them the glint in my eye and just pretty much without words pretty much tell them, yeah, you've made the wrong decision.
Anyway, sticking two fingers up at them.
Wow, that too.
Just going back to what we're talking about with weaknesses and strengths. I know in some sports psychology world, when they talk about strengths-based approaches, I'm sure there's stuff out there which basically states if you're going to work on your weaknesses all of the time and negate your strengths, you're going to find that's probably going to damage your confidence and your commitment levels, because it's going to feel like you're running in treacle, really.
Yeah, totally. I guess that was my point in terms of not only identifying where the areas that you need to work on, but still making sure that you're polishing off on your strength areas that you're strong at, because that's always going to be your forefront where you're going to be at your best. It's always an area where you want to make sure that you know that you're going to have a advantage against the opposition in front of you.
Can it be difficult as a player in a big squad to actually sort of sit back and identify exactly where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are? Because I suppose what I'm getting at is in an individual sport, a coach potentially has more time with you to reflect on those things, but in a team sport, it can be a lot tougher because they've got a lot of people to please. Yeah,
it's a really good question. I think if I look at that now as a personal trainer and I talk to a lot of people, I can kind of see what you mean there. As a personal trainer and I'm trying to train a group of people, I normally tell them or speak to them in the sense that they're not going to get my full attention simply because of the amount of people that are involved there. So whether it's a mental coach or even the head coach itself, it's probably tough to try and pinpoint areas where each individual has to kind of work on certain areas of their game. I think one of the biggest things that I found with one of the coaches that we had that really made me tick with them was the fact that the coach's approach to each individual was he did his homework about each individual, and it wasn't about rugby. It was more about the person, their background, what is it that they enjoy, what is it about their families and where they come from. This was a coach who I'd never met before, but when we first met, he was asking me about things about my background, which I didn't even know that he knew about. And I think for that, certainly broke down barriers straight away. There were no boundaries, and straight away I think that as a coach and athlete relationship was I think that was one of the best forms of building that foundation in terms of having that relationship, because I think that with a lot of the players in that team kind of just hit straight away.
Yeah, by doing that, I suppose he's got your instant respect, hasn't he? And there's that element of trust there.
Definitely.
When you look at players nowadays that you maybe mentor or you work with, what sort of challenges do you feel like they come across on a regular basis, mentally?
I think as a personal trainer, because I work on a one-to-one basis, I get to chat with these individuals a lot more at a much personal space versus as a team. But that's not to take away that I can't pinpoint or pick out an individual and have a chat with them if I see that there are certain areas that might be that needs work, or that if I might sense that they might be having issues. But at the same time, I always make sure that I leave my door open so that if they have any questions that they might want to come and approach me with, or their own issues, then I'm certainly open to that. But a lot of probably the biggest issue that I've had to that's come upon with the young athletes that I've worked with, it's self-confidence. Really, it's just them and what's happening in their top 2 inches and what they're actually building in their own head, and basically trying to build a lot of confidence within themselves. And a lot of the times is the external surroundings that where they're getting a lot of the negative feedback, if you like. And I think sometimes that's what's probably eating into them.
Yeah, obviously the world we live in right now with social media, it's obviously got its lots of pros, but yeah, that feeds it with a young person, especially because they have this sort of, I don't know, idealized view of the world, don't they? And they can get caught up comparing themselves to other people quite easily.
Yeah. That's certainly a common factor with a lot of these young athletes that I work with. They're unfortunately, well, some would say unfortunately, but like you said, there are pros and cons with this, with technology. But they're born into this new world with social media, and it's a very personal subject when I am talking with the athletes. I think for myself, in terms of where I work, I feel that even for one of them to achieve a smallest feat, it certainly grows massive confidence within themselves. And I'm talking about as a personal trainer, if he's or she is able to squat that 1 extra kilogram better than he or she did the week before, just something as small as that, as an achievement or as an accomplishment for them to be told that this is what you've done, and just to really celebrate it with them makes a huge difference for each individual.
Yeah, I agree with that, because it's sometimes a little task I'll give people that I work with would be, can you just send me an email, send me a message on a daily basis? Like sometimes I'll say 3 good things that have happened to you today, but if I know the person really struggles with that, it might just be one thing. And even some people, like, they really struggle with just one thing. And like you say, if it's just as simple as like lifting 1 kilo, or even cooking yourself a healthy meal, or along those sort of lines, it feeds the memory bank and makes you feel a bit better about yourself.
Yeah, one of the I don't know if you call it rituals or tasks or something that I used to do before my games. I got this task or ritual through a New Zealand great cricketer, Richard Hadley, which he used to write down 3 simple things that he was going to work on and focus on in his game every test match. And at the bottom, he would finish with 6, confidence breeds success. And that was something that I took to each game. There were 3 things. And in rugby, it was one thing that I was going to dominate in on attack when we had the ball, one thing that I was going to do well on defense when we didn't have the ball, and then one thing that I was going to, as a general work through the game, was something that I was going to make sure that I was going to be doing well, and whether I was going to always make sure that I was linking up with a certain player when we had the ball, just to make sure that these were 3 things that I knew that if I focus on these 3 things, everything else in my game would take care of itself.
Yeah, that's what it changes your attention, doesn't it? Your focus, so you're focusing on the right things rather than worrying about maybe what your teammates think of you, or your coaches think of you, or the opposition size, or whatever it is.
Yeah. It made a massive difference. Like you're saying, you certainly made a shift away from areas that you couldn't control, but certainly you could focus on these small areas in your game. And if you were able to make sure that you're going to be nailing each and every small and simple task, you're certainly going to make sure that your game as a whole was always going to be there and thereabouts 100%.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a fantastic tip for anyone. So it's worth its weight in gold. So as we're coming to a close there, what 3 tips would you offer like aspiring young rugby players or young athletes based on your experiences?
I would say probably the first thing is that, believe in yourself in terms of that you're good enough to be the best that you can be in whichever sport. Obviously, with myself, it was rugby. Although, I grew up playing basketball because my whole family playing basketball. Unfortunately, I didn't go any further with basketball, but I was able to still have the same attitude, still have the same vision to try and play at the top of that sport. But I made the switch to a different sport. They say, that the goal is something that will probably always stay the same, but how you get there will always have different avenues and may change in that. And that's exactly what happened for myself in there. Secondly, I'll be, surround yourself with people who are chasing similar goals or people that have positive attitude about their own outlooks in life and them looking to aim for the best that they can be. And lastly, don't be afraid to ask for help, whether it's in your game or whether it's in anything in life. I think people will certainly think that it used to be thought of that looking for help or asking for help is a weakness. More and more people now who are looking for help, you see a lot of people who are very successful. They're very successful because they asked for help.
No, I think you're right there. I'm sure when you listen to like different top athletes, I think was it Djokovic, the tennis player for one, he was really close to Kobe Bryant, who died. And obviously, he picked his brains, and I think that's a familiar theme, no doubt about it. So you've got believe in yourself, surround yourself with other people who are striving for the similar things, and then ask for help. The second one there, have you read Matthew Syed's book called Bounce? Out of interest?
No.
Okay, no. Right. Yeah, that basically typifies it. It talks about the importance of environment. Yeah, it's worth a read for.
I'll have to look at that
one. And obviously the podcast's called Demystifying Mental Toughness. And I suppose a few years ago, people would potentially look at toughness being a trait where you didn't ask for help and you just got your head down and you got on with it. But actually, it's harder to actually ask for help. But at the end of the day, it's more beneficial.
It certainly is. I think we're slowly going away from that, where it was all about, like I mentioned, looking for help or asking for help was a weakness. I think more and more, as you mentioned, with the relationship between Djokovic and Kobe Bryant, it was evident to see that these two were feeding off each other. You'll see even the best players in the world would certainly sit down and have a chat to each other. I think them feeding off in each other. And one of the biggest takes that I had that I got from the All Blacks, the New Zealand coaching staff, was that what they loved to do was at the end of the game, they would talk with the opposition coaches and they would tell them what they did. Basically, what that forced them to do was then that they had to actually come up with something different the following match, which forced them to be even more creative, forced them to try and think more differently, think more outside of that square, which just continued to challenge them. So it was, I don't know if I would be doing the same, telling people what my secrets are there, but it certainly made you think a little bit more about trying to be bold and pushing yourself.
Yeah, that's really interesting, that, because I suppose it displays a real confidence and trust that, you can be creative and change the way you play. It's a bit different to, over here, certainly it seems like there's that little fear element and you want to try and keep everything a secret.
Well, yeah. I guess most teams or most athletes and that will certainly have one or two things that they secrets that they wouldn't let out and keep it in their back pocket.
No doubt about it. Yeah, I like that one. So yeah, it's been a fascinating discussion there. You've shared some great insights there into your career and some cracking tips for people. Whereabouts can the listeners find you if they reach out to try and contact you?
You can contact me on Instagram at Lome Fa'atau, one whole word, or DM me on Twitter, Lome_Fa'atau. Instagram will probably be the easiest to DM me on if you got any questions or want to get in touch.
That's brilliant. I'll put those contact details on the show notes if anybody does reach out to you. And yeah, I really appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Dave. It's been awesome having a chat with you. Thanks for the opportunity just to be sitting in here and sharing my own experience with your crowd.
No worries. It's certainly been really valuable for the listeners. So yeah, again, thank you. If you've listened to the last few episodes of Demystifying Mental Toughness, you'll have heard me mention the Sports Psychology Hub, a community that I've put together for athletes, ambitious athletes that is, serious sport coaches, sports psychologists in training, and mental game coaches. It's a community trying to bring everybody together to share best practice and ideas and work together, especially through these difficult times right now. So in the show notes, you'll see a link to the Sports Psychology Hub, and I'd love you to join me and the group. It started on Monday, the 30th of November, and we've had a fantastic start. So I'd love to see you in there and add some fresh energy too. Have a great week. I'd like to give a big thanks to today's sponsors, Functional Intelligent Training, who are a sports injury clinic located in Gosforth, near Newcastle upon Tyne, and specialise in athlete development, nurturing future champions, strength and conditioning support, and excellent rehabilitation services. Thank you for listening to Demystifying Mental Toughness today. To sign up for tips and advice to help you be the best that you can be, go to www.sport-excellence.co.uk and sign up to the Mental Edge newsletter.